So today I am starting some tomatoes. We're starting with the cherry noir or cherry black tomato, and then doing some red cherry tomato, sun gold, a tumbler F1 hybrid. I'm going to try to do the pomodoro, the yellow shaped pear, as well as this lovely yellow dude, which I think is the Jubilee. So I'm going to have a variety of color from the ones I'm starting today, and we'll see where they go, and we'll see how they grow. I'll have others that I'm starting to, like some brandy wines and some bigger ones, beefsteak, but I'll probably do that tomorrow or the next day. So a little bit every day, right? So March break is over. The kids have headed back to school, and I decided to do some work out in the greenhouse while I was working. So I was listening to a couple of meetings, and I did some voice notes as I literally just kind of almost felt this meditativeness practice wash over me. But I started lots of seeds today, so I wanted to walk everyone through what I started. So I finally took the bells of Ireland out of the freezer, and I started about, I think, 48 of these, and we'll see how they go. I know they're a bit notoriously difficult to germinate and grow, so we'll see how that goes. I started 4 different kinds of pincushion, including Black Knight, Snow Maiden, Summer Sangria, and Fire King. So I got some from Florette and 1 package from Johnny's. Came in a lot more when it came from Johnny's, so I'm a bit surprised at how much I actually got in that pack or ordered, so I might have to look back at it to see if it was as good a deal as my brain is thinking it is right now. I started some lace flower, chocolate lace flower, and Queen Anne's lace. So I've got the 3 of these all in the same tray. I just started, I think, 12 of each, just to kind of see what they're going to be like, because I have natural wild carrot or Queen Anne's lace that kind of grows in my yard at my house. So I want to see how that goes, and if it is the same or just something similar in the vein for that, because I really do love it as like just this pop of fill and the movement it has. And then I started some blue perum. This is the one I have a little bit of trouble pronouncing, so I'm excited to see how this goes. I know it says this, that it can be sown in the fall, but I figured I would start it inside and see how it goes to put it outside. Last year I tried doing a direct sow of this and nothing came up. So I got my fingers crossed. I'm going to try it again and see how it goes. Also started a packet of euphorbia. So these I got last year, and I really, really like the color and texture that it adds to a bouquet. So I'm super excited for that. I started some hyacinth bean. I love the purple that is in this, so I'm really looking forward to being able to put that into things and see how that goes. I started a boatload more stock because I'm in love with stock. So I started apricot stock, vintage brown, iron rose, butter and buttercream. So lots more of that to come. I also started some nigella, 3 kinds of lupin, because I just love, love, love the color and texture this brings. It just reminds me of my childhood and gives me a ton of joy. I grew up in Newfoundland, and these just kind of grow wild. The purple and the pinks with a bit of green and cream. And I just want to see them for me, even if I never use them in anything, although I think I definitely will. And the last thing I started today was status. So I started some sunset mix, some pastel blue, more sunset mix, another pastel mix that's not blue, and yeah, we'll see how those go. I can't find my larkspur seeds, so I'm a little bit upset about that. I'm going to try to look in my house again and see if I can find them, because I had hoped to start those today too. And I ordered some seed starting germination kits for my kids, so each of them could have 12 of their own pots, and that they could see like the life cycle of the plant, that they start as a seed, what happens when it grows, and they're going to have their own little beds. Each of them will get an 8x4 bed, and see how they maintain it. I'll help them out a bit. Hopefully it'll be good for that. But they're showing some real interest, especially my 2 youngest, who are 6 and 7. So I really want to kind of shine a light on that and help them grow with it. It's something that really excites me because I didn't have that when I was younger. I've discovered it as an adult and how much joy it actually brought me. And I'm kind of discovering with them and learning with them, which is really helpful too. And so I love it. So I'm filling out the tray here. And got myself a few temporary ones because I've actually completely run out of trays. And I decided to actually read the back of my Larkspur packets, realizing that they need some cold stratification. So I just went and stuck them in the freezer, and I'm actually going to be another week before I can plant those, just to make sure they get some cold time before I start putting the seeds in anything. So today I'm actually going to start some celosia, maybe some more rudbeckia, and a handful of other things. I have some gomphrena that says it should start at 8 weeks and some that say it should start at 6. So I'm going to actually start the ones that say they need to be about 6 to 8 weeks before last frost, because they may or may not make it into a hoop house depending on if we actually get around to getting it bought and built in time. And if not, then they might just have to get potted up and wait a little bit longer to make it into the ground. But we are now about 8 weeks from the last frost in Canada, maybe 7 from my zone. I'm right on the cusp of a 4B and 5A zone. So depending on where I'm at on my property changes what zone I'm in, because we have a bit of a microclimate. And that microclimate can benefit us, but it also makes things a little bit more challenging sometimes. So we have 2 properties. We have the farm that we bought that's just a couple kilometers up the road. And then we have our house property, which is right on the river. And that can give us longer, cooler temperatures. And in some cases, a bit warmer temperature depending on the time of year. So pros and cons. I get cool flowers for a little bit longer if I put them in here. And I can actually hang on to the heat a little bit in the early fall, which is surprising given the proximity to the river, because it's literally 100 feet from the backyard is the start of the river. But it's a very motivational thing. All right, so tray is ready, and let's get this seeded up. So, we got the lovely tray here, and we're going to start with some celosia, which I have a boatload of different kinds. So we're going to start with the Texas Plume Summer Sherbet Mix and see what we get in here before moving on to the next kind. I bought quite a bit of different seeds from Flat over the last 2 years. Last year I was hoping to plant a lot more than I ended up planting. And this year I feel like I'm really making up for that. So it's been a really interesting experience. The sun is actually brighter than I thought it was going to be, and I can barely see. But we've gone from 2 really cloudy days to a really beautiful sunny day today, even though it's a little bit cool. And it's maple syrup season. So we have been collecting sap for the last 4 or 5 days and starting to boil that down, which has been really awesome. Because last year, or I guess going into this year, was the first year we'd actually grown enough to not need to buy any from anybody. So I'm actually going to have used all of this packet. I probably overseeded a little bit just because I didn't want to save this one. I have 3 or 4 kinds, and I really do like it. I love it a lot. But they're on their 2nd year with me, so I know the germination starts to go down just a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I just wanted to make sure that I'm going to have really good germination across these. So I've seeded 3 or 4 in each one, and I might even be able to separate them going forward. The next one I'm going to do is Pink Champagne Celosia. This is actually a beautiful color. I really love this one, even maybe a little bit more than the Texas Plume. But yeah, it's so hot in here. I'm actually sweating because we haven't installed the air return fan, which we're going to do this weekend. But it means right now it's 37 degrees in here, and I'm actually sweating from my face, which is just a wee bit more warm than I would have liked. So I'm not going to use all of this one. I might actually have a succession of it, but I will grab my tags and my marker and put some flags in here before I forget. So here's Celosia Texas Plume, and here is Celosia Pink Champagne. All right. The next one is going to be Rainbow Sherbet. I actually forget a little bit about what this one looks like. I ordered it 2 or 3 years ago. So I think this is also coming down on the last year's, because the first years I had stored my seeds or bought seeds, I didn't realize the way in which you should store seeds. And so 2 years ago, I left seeds in areas where they might actually have just kind of cooked. So there might be some lower pore germination for anything I bought in 2020. So I'm kind of just going to deal with whatever that turns into. All right. So this whole tray is planted with 3 types of Celosia. And I'm going to do one more tray that's going to have a few others. And awesome. Now I'm going to water this in after, and I'll be back with the next tray. So I did make a wee bit of a mistake, and I did not hit record, or thought I hit record and couldn't see in the sun when I made the second tray here. And so what I ended up actually starting was some Celosia Flamingo Feather, which is probably the one I like the most. It's going to be the most versatile for what I'm going to try to create this year. As well as some Gonfrina. So I started Raspberry Cream, Audrey White, and the Red Purple mix. And those I really love because they are going to dry beautifully. And when they dry well, I like to make things like wreaths. And I like the fact that they preserve their color and they keep that beautiful texture and shape. And so I'm going to use those and be versatile in what I'm being able to do. And I just covered a bit of the top of those in some vermiculite to hold some water in. And because it's so warm here, I ended up opening the door to the greenhouse just to get some more airflow. Because I am going to have to bring in some more fans, get the window installed to return air. Because right now with the door open, it's still 38 degrees in here. And it's quite warm to be A, working in, and B, having things growing along. But a couple of the challenges I'm having are some things need total darkness, some things want to germinate only in the cool, some things want to germinate in the heat, and I'm bringing things inside and outside for the trays, the shelving unit I have in the house and the shelving units I have out here. And I had hoped beginning of this week to bring everything out here, and then I realized things like larkspur needed to be cold stratified, and I had to put that in the freezer for a little bit, and other things that needed to be on heat mats. And so I've kind of been bouncing back and forth a little bit, even though I think for someone like myself with ADHD, I kind of need things to be in one space to make sure nothing is getting dried out, everything's getting watered well, that I'm checking on things. But therein lays the problems with being in that kind of situation. But I am really excited and glad for a lot of the things that I have been able to achieve. Here are the Gonfrina and the Celosia that I have started. So I've got my Texas Bloom, my Pink Champagne, and my Rainbow Mix, the Flamingo Feather, and the 3 colors of Gonfrina. And we're just going to have that sit there. I'm going to get it watered in. But one of the things I was actually really excited about was that more of the sweet peas that did not germinate when they were in the house have started to grow out. So this is a brand new one. This one back here is brand new. And so I actually think I'm going to end up with a bit better germination rate than I thought. And I have the same thing happening down here to these snaps. I've got a new one come out here, here, and back here, when these ones are quite bigger. So I'm just thinking some might be running a little bit slower than others. And that's okay too. But yeah, my shelves are getting full, as you can see. All the way down to the bottom. I'm hiding my Chinese forget-me-nots there because they need darkness. I'm going to need to bring those inside to make sure that that actually can happen. And then get this cluttery mess in the back cleaned up to bring out my other shelf, set up a little bit of a workspace for when I want to work out here doing my day job, which is an office kind of job that I can do from home. But I have a lot of flexibility because I can put in the hours in the times that work the best for me, as long as I'm able to make all the meetings and I'm keeping the workflow going well. So it's lent itself to me really being able to expand on this, and then I can organize my cluttered mess. But the time and energy have given me so much back that I just can't, you know, it's just this wonderful thing. So I am back out here again in the greenhouse, and I was taking a look at how germination was going, what some of the plants were doing, checking on the heat because it's been really, really windy here. The winds are 60 or 70 kilometer an hour winds today, and it actually started to hail outside. And I know everything's protected in here, but I had like this moment of anxiety of needing to come and check, because today is the first day in, I don't even know how long, that I've had a period where I have no kids at home. There's no husband at home. All 3 children are at birthday parties and play dates, and I've got another 2 hours to myself. So where else would I want to be but in here with the dirt and the plants? And I'm going to be doing some work in here today. So I'm going to take you along and show you some of the things that I am getting done. I am going to be transplanting some of these snaps, because you can see here there's 5 or 6 in several of these cell trays, and some of the cells that are empty. So I'm just going to transplant them over so they have a little bit better place to be. I'm going to transplant them over so they have a little bit better space to grow, and that I'll be able to have more of them than I do right now. One of the really great things is if I look in here, my tiny, tiny bachelor buttons are starting to pop up. And I gotta get this watered a bit, but definitely having more success there. And the straw flowers have started to come out. So you can see some of the germination there and back here further in the tray. So I'm super excited about that. The greenhouse got quite warm today. It actually motivated me to start my peppers. And so up here, there is an entire tray of everything from California Red to Purple Beauty to Hot and Longs, Poblano, Cubanelle, Thai peppers, kind of quite a lot of variety there. So I said, hey, it's time to start to plant some vegetables. Because in many ways I got carried away with the flowers this year, and I'm probably at about 4,500, 5,000 seedlings in the greenhouse right now. And hopefully by the end of the weekend, that shelf that I keep talking about will make its way out here. There's only 2 more trays sitting on it for it to be empty to go, hey husband, help me bring it out, so I can plant more things. But I'm quite excited about that. And I started to finally fertilize some of the plants, which is really good. So the Lysianthus have started to grow really well. I kind of burned a few dahlias because I had them in the same tray as some of my Lysianthus. And some of the leaves from the cuttings of dahlias took a bit of a fry. But I am going to work on trying to bring that back and see if I can save them. I'm going to bring them down and show you. So this is the tray of dahlias that I'm talking about. So you can see some really bad fertilization burn here. These took a really bad burning, but there's new growth coming out on them. So I think they're going to be okay with maybe the exception of this cutting. So we'll see how that goes. And it did definitely kill these 2 right here. So this one is a no more, and this one is no more. But this one has bounced back, and this one is really trying to. So I'm really gonna just let this sit, make sure it's fully watered, and hopefully it's gonna come back really well. That wasn't the only dahlia cutting. So these are cuttings too. This one is doing absolutely brilliantly. This one is coming back really well. This one established, and these 3 took a bit of a burn. So we'll see how they do too. But I did learn something about making sure that I keep things that like the same things together, and things that don't, really making sure that they are separated so that they can grow well. And I did end up getting my extra new trays. These are all from Bootstrap Farmer. So I got 10 of the 128s and 10 of the 288s just to get more things started. One of the really great things that I have been noticing is that this tray, like I tried to start some in like mass, And in some trays that's worked really, really well, and in other trays it's just really slow on the germination. And it dries out really quickly. So I'm trying to figure out if it's just maybe getting a better mister to do this, or if that's really damaging the plants, because this is some straw flower. And this is also straw flower, and there are probably 40 or 50 seedlings that have popped up in the individual cell tray versus in mass I've got like 3. So I'm gonna wait another maybe 4 or 5 days and really see what the difference is between the two. They're both under light. They're both at a light wall in the greenhouse. So we'll see how that goes. So I had just mentioned about the snapdragons and how I'm going to pull some of these out and pop them into spots where there are empty cells where nothing germinated. So that is what I'm going to do for the next little while. See how many of these I can get. I have been told that snapdragons roots don't mind this kind of pulling, as long as you're fairly gentle and they're going into good moist soil. That should be okay, given you know, a few days to adjust. So I'm going to pull them and see what I can do. Like in this case, I just went to pull and I got 2. Because in a few of my cells, I actually had maybe 7 or 8 that germinated, and I'm thinking I might have just dropped a little bit because their seeds for them are so small that it's just so easy. And I don't know if you can hear just how bad that wind is. It's just brutal right now. But yeah, the snapdragon seeds are just so tiny that it is super easy for this to be a problem. I was not expecting the wind to be quite so intense, so I apologize for that. I knew it was high, but this is pretty brutal. I haven't really done this kind of thing outside of to tomatoes, so we'll see how well the transplanting works next week or so. But I am going to try to fill up the majority of the cells that I can that are empty here. So that's about, on this side of the tray, it was about 50% of the tray wasn't full. The other side, it was an overabundance in a dozen cells. So I'm wondering that I might have actually just really dropped a whole pack of seed, you know, a good chunk of a pack of seed, and not realized it, either with the kids out here or myself, because both my 7 and 6-year-old have tried to do a lot of planting with me this year, which I really love, but that can lead to a lot of dropped things. So I'm just gonna take that as a gift and let it be what it is and hope for the best from that, because I want them to be interested and I want them to be happy to do these kinds of things with their mom and not worry that mom's gonna get mad because some seeds have fallen. Because you know what, might be just a small little gift back to myself in the form of extras where nothing grew. And so that's really exciting for me. Ironically, this tray has had some issues with the spread of water, and I'm actually wondering if where I had put it initially was on a uneven surface, because about half the tray is really moist and the other half of this tray is very, very dried out. Oh wow, it is getting rough. Just hearing the airflow in the greenhouse is incredible. We have it heated, and when I came back out, I was surprised that it was only 24 degrees in here because it was so sunny earlier. And earlier it was 39 degrees in the greenhouse. And at the moment, it is definitely not 39. I think it's 23. So we'll see how well, because when the wind blows this badly, it usually costs a lot more to heat because there are openings in the greenhouse that are not, you know, super well sealed, because this is our first spring with the functioning greenhouse, because last year we were building it, and we built it probably through April into May. And so I didn't have it for this time of year. I had it for a bit later. And so I wasn't really sure like how well it would hold heat. That's why we caulked some of the places on the floor. We put in the heater because I wanted to be able to use it for more of the season and get a better shoulder coverage, which I definitely think we are getting. So there's that. And I'll just do it little bit by little bit, you know, and hope for the best. That's kind of the whole motto I am taking with gardening in general, is hope for the best. Give it time, give it your energy, give it your effort, see where it goes, and let it be what it's going to be. Because not everything is about being perfect. Not everything is about collecting harvest or having these beautiful bouquets. Sometimes it's going to be about learning, about failure, about mistakes, about opportunity to grow. And I will take everything from that I can, because I think that we sometimes stop wanting to learn. And when we stop wanting to learn, we stop growing. And then we get rooted in this space where we're not interested in being better, being different, changing when change is necessary. Because plants, they change when it's necessary, right? They grow, they bloom, they die back. Sometimes they need to be deadheaded. Sometimes they need more or less space in order to thrive. Humans are the same. And so for me right now, the space I need is the space to be out here doing this. To taking the time and going, I'm going to separate these one by one. I'm going to pluck them out and I'm going to put them in a new home, and I'm going to see how they adapt to that new home. And I'm going to give them the best environment and conditions I can to make that a successful transition. Because sometimes the transition success is determined by the environments we give things. Like when kids leave home, what do they have to leave home with? What support structures exist? Who can they ask for help? The same thing happens with our plants. When they get potted up, when they get transplanted, when we fail to water them, we fail to nurture them and help them successfully grow, where does that leave us? And that leaves us with sad plants, with things that have no home, things that die, things that we go, why didn't you do better? And sometimes that's our fault, and sometimes it's not. And we have to be able to learn and respect that that is the nature of things. And not every single thing we are going to do is going to be successful. But that does not mean that every single thing we are going to do is going to fail. It means that everything has a chance. And so I have now gone ahead and moved a whole bunch of these. And you'll see now there's a lot better distribution across the cells. This one has still got a whole lot. I'm gonna let them get a little bit bigger, and then I will transplant them out to another tray. And I'm gonna do a little bit of vermiculite over this because I have moved a lot of things. I've disturbed the soil a lot, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of layer of moisture retention. So I went and got my vermiculite, and I'm just gonna give a light dusting over stuff. I'm not gonna put a lot. Just want a little bit of water retention, a little bit of support for the baby seedlings that I just moved around because they're really small. Some of these seedlings are probably only a week or so old, maybe a week and a half, maximum 2 weeks. And I want to have them have a good disbursement and give them the best conditions. So here I go. And I'm gonna check in on this tray with everybody in maybe a week or so, and we'll see how the tray looks now that I have done so much of that transplanting, and see if it had space for more of them to thrive. So I'm gonna get this one watered in, put it on the shelf, and we'll be good to go for this lovely batch of snapdragons. Just a little update on those Chinese forget-me-nots. I have been trying to germinate them under some mats in the greenhouse instead of bringing them in the house. You can see they've got some germination. I'm gonna let it try to germinate a few more days, cover everything back up, get some more cells going, and then I am going to take those out and get them under lights. And they will then follow suit of all of the rest of these beautiful little baby flowers. Oh, I'm so excited. Can you tell? Look at that. These have all been pinched once, as have the sweet peas that are down here. And there's another tray of them up here. So all the pinching of the sweet peas is actually going to help them be stronger. It's going to help them branch out more and it will allow me to have started them earlier and then get them in the ground in a time when it's going to be good for them. And I started 5 trays of sweet peas. So I'll have, you know, a good 300 or 400 by the time they get put out, hopefully. And at least 300 or 400 snapdragons. So I am over the moon excited. It's time to grow. Is it summer? When I'm talking about hail outside and horrible winds and cold. It will be here soon enough. And that's all I can say. Soon enough, I'll be sitting out in the garden, drinking a cup of coffee, hearing the birds chirp, and watching flowers bloom. So until then, see you next time, folks.